If you want to know how to make your Pocket 3 footage look more cinematic or look better than it should out of this little camera, then this is the video for you. Today we're going to go over a few different ways that you can improve your Pocket 3 footage and get more pro level results out of it, or as all the kids say on YouTube these days, more cinematic footage. And just so we're clear, this video is sponsored by K&F Concept, and they sent me a few of the products that I'm going to show you in this video and that do genuinely help you get better, more cinematic footage. While you can shoot with the Pocket 3 in auto, you get a lot better quality if you kind of set some of the settings. So I want to show you a few of the different ways that I do it. One is like the beginner mode where you basically do shoot in audio. And then one is the more advanced mode where I'm going to show you how to set your settings up properly to get the best looking footage out of it. So starting with the beginner mode, let me show you what I've got going on. Here's the beginner way to get better footage out of the Pocket 3. Swipe over from the right hand side, swipe to the left. This pulls up your menu, and then what you want to go into is tap the auto exposure and set it to 50 through 100 for your ISO. And then also go over and set it to -0.3. And what that's going to do is protect your highlights like you see in the clouds here. So that'll keep your cloud or your highlights much better. So we get back out of that. And then the other thing you want to do is lock your white balance so it's not changing from scene to scene. And so the easiest way to do this is hit auto white balance, wait till it kind of stops moving, and then go back to manual, and it locks it right there. You can also swipe up and down to set your white balance where it could be. Now you can let the white balance stay in auto, but I find that it does tend to shift if you're moving from somewhere where, you know, it's different, pretty drastically different from the other way you're looking. And so I prefer to just lock it and leave it that way. Once you set it that way, you're good to go. Now, while you can film in normal color profile, and honestly, the Pocket 3 looks pretty good in normal color profile, especially the normal 10-bit color profile. If you film in D-Log-M, you're gonna get a little bit more dynamic range and the ability to make the camera look a little bit more like you want it to look. So the easiest way to do that is just swipe over, tap here, and then cycle through normal, D-Log-M, or HLG. I do normal for beginners. It's super easy, goes straight on social media, it looks great. But if you want to get a little more control, then D-Log-M definitely gives you a little more control and a little bit more dynamic range. Now, the way to get the best footage out of the Pocket 3 is to lock your exposure, lock everything down. So the best way to do this is, again, swipe over, set your ISO for 50 to 100. Pocket 3 performs pretty well right there. And then over here, tap manual and lower your shutter speed to be 2 times your frame rate. Now I'm filming in 30, so I'm going to use 1/60. As you can see, it's way overexposed, but this is where one of the products that K&F makes comes into play. Now, they also make variable ND filters, which I've purchased myself in the past and used. Unfortunately, I lost mine somewhere, but they are very good quality. These are not variable. These are just straight stick-on. So this is the 32, ND32. And you can see just like that, the exposure is fixed and looks much better. Now, why is this important? Getting the right shutter speed does something for motion blur. So if you see my hand here and I go like this, you can see that my fingers are blurry a little bit, which is the way our mind naturally perceives motion blur. Now, let me take the ND filter off and we'll ramp the shutter speed way back up and I'll show you again what I mean. So now we're back to a very high shutter speed. And if I move my hand, you see the difference there? It looks kind of stuttery and weird. So getting the right motion blur is super helpful because the way our minds naturally perceive motion is with a certain amount of blur to it. And that's kind of that 1 or 2 times rule, 180 rule. It's referred to it a few different ways, but basically your shutter speed should be about 2 times your frame rate. Now, this isn't a hard and fast rule. It does make your footage look more cinematic and look good. But it really comes into play on fast moving objects. So if you're filming going down a street or like high speed objects like cars, motorcycles, waterfalls, anything like that, anything that's fast moving, that your mind would normally look at that and it would blur somewhat anyway because it's moving quickly, that's where it's really important to come into play. If it's just me standing here talking to the camera, or you're just, you know, walking down the street talking to the camera and there's nothing that's really going fast around you, then there's a lot more play in that. But the faster something goes, the more important it is to get the right amount of motion blur in there to make it look natural. And yes, it will look more cinematic. And in case you're wondering, yes, the ND filters do fit on the lens when you power it off. So we've covered how to set your settings up, which is arguably the most important way to improve your Pocket 3 footage and to get it looking right the way it should look. If you're gonna make it look like a higher end camera or like it came off a higher end production, those settings are some of the most important things. But there are other ways we can utilize the Pocket 3 and other things we can do with the Pocket 3 to make our footage look different and set it apart a little bit. And yes, K&F Concept has a couple of options for us. They have made an anamorphic lens, a wide angle lens, and a macro lens. Now, we're gonna start with the macro lens because it's honestly one of the funnest things I've been playing with today and over the last couple of weeks. I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. This is the macro lens from K&F Concept, and it basically enables you, if you snap it on the front of your Pocket 3, to get way closer to subjects and to get some really cool detail shots. And doing stuff like that is something that will set your footage apart and make your, I'm not gonna say it makes it look more cinematic, but it will make it different. And so having the option to do like a macro or a wider field of view with the Pocket 3 really does add some interest and variety and make this camera a lot more capable. Like, look at how close you have to get for it to be able to focus. And also you get this really nice kind of background blur fall off where it goes from in focus to out of focus. You could see it just gives you some really great detail shots of a subject. But in addition to the macro lens, there's also a wide angle lens, which we snap it on there, gives you just a little bit wider field of view. Actually, it's pretty nice. I tried this out in the car earlier and it was nice, especially like if you're gonna do two people sitting in the car. And yes, we will talk about how to set up your Pocket 3 for car footage, which is really a fun way to use this little camera. But yeah, anyway, it just gives you a little bit wider field of view. Pretty nice, I kind of dig it. But then there's also included in this kit an anamorphic lens. Now, the anamorphic lens is interesting because you can see it doesn't really give you any higher width like the wide angle one does, but it does widen out the sides a little bit, and then you de-squeeze it in post just a little bit. But then the other thing that it will do is give you these lens streaks. So you can see there, blue streaks across the lens. Now, I will admit, it doesn't make a lot of sense in a location like this to have anamorphic blue flares. That's more of like a sci-fi thing. But if you're in a city at night with lights around you, or if you're doing car stuff again, like, it could be a very cool effect. But I gotta say that my favorite is the macro lens. It's really fun to play with, and the wide angle lens, just super useful. And because these are all magnetic, you can stack them. So you can put the ND filter on the Pocket 3 and then put the lens in place, and you don't have an issue where sometimes certain lenses, certain wide angle lenses or things like that, you couldn't use with ND filters because of the way they attached. Hey, if you're enjoying or getting value out of this video, then consider subscribing. I go out and test and compare filmmaking equipment in the most rugged real world conditions I can find here in Alaska where I live, and I give you tips and tutorials on how to use it. One of my most used accessories for the Pocket 3 is a selfie stick, and that's because I can set up like it is set up right now, where I don't have to have a tripod. It's super small and lightweight, easy to take with me just about anywhere, and easy to just throw up and set up somewhere and get great shots. And especially if you're doing things like active tracking through a scene, just makes it super easy. It's faster and easier to set up than a tripod. It's super lightweight. It's easy to take with you just about everywhere, and it enables you to get a lot of different kind of shots. K&F sent me a really nice one that's made of carbon fiber. It's much nicer than the one I was using. And you can not only use it with a couple of different sections to get various heights and set it up like I have it set up right now, but you actually can get shots a little farther away from you, and you don't look like you're holding a Pocket 3 like this when you're holding it out there like that, but you can just hold it down at your waist pretty comfortably and get some, you know, decent shots. What do you think of this shipwreck back here? This is kind of cool, right? Really rusty. It's been here for a long time. But especially if you operate like I do, where you use the Pocket 3 to film yourself a lot, but you're in somewhat of a fast-paced environment, then beyond the selfie stick, which helps a lot, being able to put the camera into weird or interesting places really quickly makes a huge difference. And one of the things I've been using for that is this little, I don't know what you would call this, but the little mount for the Pocket 3. The Pocket 3, you put it in there, wrap it around, and then this comes around here, snaps back. And then the cool thing about this is that this is magnetic. So like these shots here, I just was sticking it in these random places on my shelves in the studio to be able to get these shots. But the other cool thing is that most of my car has metal on it, so I can stick it to the sides of my car or the hood of the car. And because this folds down, I can set this just all kinds of different places really quickly to grab shots, which helps to build a story. And that really is the most important thing about getting cinematic footage, is not just how cool your footage looks, but does it tell a story of something you're doing or someplace you're going, because that will do more than anything to set your Pocket 3 footage apart. Now, if you're gonna drive around filming yourself in the car, there are a couple of things you can do. One, K&F makes this nice little 1/4-20 / GoPro finger mount that will give you a real easy way to switch between different mounts that you have, like if you're running it on a selfie stick or on the batteries, but then you want to stick it on the car, on the dash, and get this forward-facing shot, or the shot that you're seeing right now where I'm talking to camera. Makes it super easy, and because it has USB-C pass-through, you can also keep the Pocket 3 charged while you're driving. Super useful. But there are a couple of tips to be able to get the best footage out of a car. And the first is that you want to put it in TFPV mode, and that locks the tilt or the roll axis so it doesn't roll left or right as the gimbal feels the gyro IMU data pushing to the left or pushing to the right as you go around turns like you see here. Instead, that will keep the horizon level and give you a much more natural shot. Now, one of the tips I have for you in car to film in cars, and especially through windshields, is if you're going to be driving through rain and you don't want the Pocket 3 to focus on the raindrops on the windshield, you need to put it in single focus mode and then focus on something that's way outside the car, and that will lock the focus to outside the car. And then rain on the windshield wipers, anything like that, bugs, not going to matter. It's going to stay focused on infinity, which is really ideally what you want to have when you're filming forward facing, like out the car windshield that way. But then if you're going to film yourself like I am right now, what you want to do is everything I just said except for the single focus mode, and then active track your face. That will keep the gimbal from drifting too far left or right. And the nice thing is once you active track, you can kind of place the subject, wherever you want it in the car, and then boom, you're good to go. You get this really nice shot where you're just naturally talking to camera. And if you have a Mic Mini or Mic 2, in this case I'm using the Mic 2, where I've got a lapel on so that I'm getting a little bit cleaner audio than just the general ambient noise that would be in the car otherwise. Now I want to thank K&F Concept for sponsoring this video and for creating useful tools like this that enable us to go out and film and create good videos and film and create good content. Everything that I've talked about in this video will be linked down in the description. You can go down there, check it out. If you're interested in picking this up, honestly, a lot of it is, almost all of it, none of it's super expensive. So definitely worth checking out. Next, you're gonna wanna watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.